Hi friends, Crystal here, and welcome to Homemaking on the Homestead. In this video, I am going to show you another week of meals that I have made for my husband and I. I hope this video helps give you some inspiration for your own menu planning and cooking, and any of the recipes or links to the recipes can be found in the description box below. So let's get cooking. On Sunday, I decided to do an Instant Pot meal and make some Asian hamburger rice. I started by putting my Instant Pot on Saute and cooking up my hamburger. I then added a little handful of onions to go with it. When that was all cooked, I drained the grease and added 2 cups of rice. And I added 2 cups of water. This is Jasmine rice, and that's typically the measurements for the Instant Pot. I stirred that around and then added a cup of frozen peas and carrots. I also added 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. You could do more or less depending on your own preferences. I decided to add a couple more tablespoons of water just because I had added some extra ingredients. I put my Instant Pot on manual and set it to cook for 10 minutes. While my Instant Pot was cooking that up, I decided to scramble a couple eggs so that I could add that afterwards. I did a quick release of the pressure when the time was up, and then I kind of stirred everything around and added my eggs and stirred that up. I didn't get a picture of the finished meal that night, but we did have that with a salad and some pot stickers. On Monday night, I decided to make some chicken strips. Of course, I first got my salad all made. I just had a little bit of leftover veggies that I threw together to make us a quick salad. And then I defrosted about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounds of chicken tenders and cut them into strips. I then measured out my flour, which was about 1.5 cups. Recipe will be below. And I added a tablespoon of cornstarch. Cornstarch just helps make the coating stick to your meat better. I added my seasonings to taste. You can do it more or less, whatever your preference might be. I then scrambled up or mixed up 3 eggs and got some oil in my frying pan heated up. I dipped all my chicken strips into the egg mixture, and after I had kind of stirred it around and made sure they were coated well, I then put them into the flour mixture. And then I put them into the hot oil. In total, they probably cooked 5-6 minutes, and I waited until I turned them over a few different times and waited until they had gotten to a nice golden brown type color. And some I turned over 2 or 3 times, just trying to get that perfect color, that perfect look. In between batches, I added a little bit more oil, let that heat up, and then did the next batch. For my 2 pounds of chicken, I think I ended up doing 3 batches, and it pretty much used up all the flour and all the eggs. So it was I just kind of guessed. I didn't really follow any recipe. I just kind of winged it, and it turned out just fine. And man, they were really, really good. Nice and crispy. I served that with a macaroni salad that I had already made and leftover salad that I had added some extra greens to, and we dipped it in ranch dressing. And it was a very, very delicious meal. A little bit time consuming to make, but it was worth it. On Tuesday, I was going to make some meatball sub sandwiches. I started by making my own sauce. I used a small can of tomato paste. I added some salt to that. And then I added water. And I stirred that around and then added all my seasonings. Basically, it's like a spaghetti sauce. I just like using tomato paste better. I think it has better flavor. Once it was all stirred up and ready to go, I got my Instant Pot out and I put the trivet in the bottom. Tomato products can sometimes cause your Instant Pot to not come to pressure, and you can also get a burn notice. So I wanted to make sure that the water on the bottom would ensure that everything would come to pressure. And I drizzled most of the sauce over the top just so that the meatballs could absorb a lot of the flavor. And these were frozen meatballs from Costco. I put the lid on, set it to sealing, and adjusted the time for 6 minutes. When that was up, I did a quick release. While that had been going, I had chopped up some cabbage and made some coleslaw. It was the recipe I shared last time, but I will share it again down below. When the meatballs had finished, I just basically grabbed a fork and lifted out the trivet and let the meatballs fall into the sauce. I did want them coated in the sauce. I just wanted to make sure that everything had come up to pressure. And then what little sauce I had left over, I just dumped that in there with it. I cut the meatballs in half at mealtime and put them onto my sub sandwich bread and topped it with a little bit of coleslaw. They turned out really good. My husband he ate a couple of the 3 there, and he said he really enjoyed it a lot too. On Wednesday, it was basically time for a leftovers buffet. I still had coleslaw, I had the Asian hamburger rice, I had a few meatballs and sauce. I had a big bunch of greens that I cut up. He had 1 sub sandwich that he had left over, and I had a few chicken strips. So I just kind of divided that up between our plates, and that's what we call a leftovers buffet. On Thursday, we decided to barbecue some chicken legs, and these take about a half hour on a fairly hot grill, probably around 350, more like 400 degrees. Obviously, we barbecue, so it's not gas, and so we're not able to control the temperature like you would with gas, but we just cook them until they're nicely coated and look done. I still had some of the Asian rice, so I served that as the side dish. We had been shopping that day and bought some sushi, so we had that, and I had my greens and some coleslaw that was still left. On Friday, I was making chicken Alfredo. I measured out about 1.5 pounds of chicken tenderloins and put those in the oven so that they could start to defrost and then cook. And while they were doing that, I got everything together to make my sauce and cook my noodles. I have an entire video on how to make this recipe, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail on this, but I will link that recipe. And I don't really follow ingredients, although in my recipe I do list you the ingredients. I just kind of wing it, and I made the sauce while the chicken was cooking. And then I added the seasonings after I had it to the thickness and smoothness that I wanted, and last some Parmesan cheese. After the chicken was about halfway cooked, I pulled it out of the oven, drained off any water liquid, flipped it over, seasoned it with salt and pepper, and drizzled some Italian dressing over the top of it. It really adds a nice burst of flavor. And I put it back in the oven to let it finish cooking. Got my fettuccine noodles cooking, and the meal comes together really fast, which is why it's one of my favorite meals to do. I served that with a salad and some of my own homemade bread, which I had sliced up and turned into garlic toast. It was a delicious meal. On Saturday, we had leftover chicken Alfredo. Well, that is all for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to give it a like if you did, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you like my content, would you please consider subscribing? That means a lot to me. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.